Welcome back to the SportsBeat KC podcast. This is Jesse Newell, KUP reporter for the Kansas City Star. I'm joined again this week by CJ Moore of Bleacher Report. CJ, how you doing?
Doing great, Jesse. What's going on, man?
Not too much. The weather's getting nicer. It's obviously baseball season, but also kind of recruiting season for KU. Still in the mix for Duke point guard Derek Thornton. He's set to visit this week, and have a guest to talk about both him and recruiting. ESPN's Jeff Borzello we'll have on later in the show. I know he's a close buddy of yours, and talk a little bit about KU this class and the next class, and also the transfer epidemic, if you will. So, CJ, have you known Jeff for a while? Kind of what's the insight with him and how he made it up to ESPN?
Yeah, Jeff's been a guy that's been around college basketball for a while. Started out at CBS Sports. He was kind of a colleague of mine there while I had a brief stint at CBS, and got to know him through basically being out on the recruiting trail and Final Fours. And Jeff's a really good dude. Probably knows the transfer market better than anyone out there, because he's the guy when a player is transferring, either the coach or the AAU coach or the player is reaching out to him and letting him know. He's kind of become the transfer guru and probably knows that topic as well as anyone. And then really is smart as far as talking about recruiting and knows what's going on. And has a good feel for the current situation for Kansas and basically any school nationally. So I think people will be interested to hear what he has to say. Yeah,
he has an interesting thought process on Derek Thornton here, where he might attend to. And then I thought he had some great thoughts, too, coming up on Josh Jackson as well and the type of player that KU is going to get with him. Before we get started, though, let's talk about the big news of the week. Josh Jackson, it is official for KU. He signs with the Jayhawks, his national letter of intent. No real big drama here. Obviously, he committed a couple weeks ago, but I think he wanted to have his mom come from Michigan to California to be there with him when he signed and kind of have that all together. So he's part of the class now. And CJ, I always find it fascinating, the quotes from Bill Self, because this is when he can first officially talk about Josh Jackson, the recruit, once they sign. And let me just kind of read off the release here. Josh has been a guy so respected in all high school circles the last 4 years. He is probably as highly thought of as any recent player to come out of high school because of his competitive nature. And then he also goes on, Bill Self goes on to talk about, we feel his impact on our program next year will be as much as any freshman will have on any college program. He's extremely athletic, but more importantly, extremely competitive. Do you agree with Self? Do you think Josh Jackson will have as big of an impact at KU as any freshman at any program across the nation next year?
Now, Jesse, I'm sure what you're getting to, because I know the game we're about to play is there's usually a little bit of hyperbole in these quotes that come out. But I will say, obviously Josh Jackson is pretty much anybody you talk to is thinks very highly of him. And I've been interested. Last week, I've had the chance to talk to a couple NBA scouts about him for a project I'm doing over at Bleacher Report. And one thing that they say is kind of what Self says is he's about as ready as any of these freshmen coming in to come in and contribute, just because he understands, and this is something that Bill Self's going to love and KU fans are going to love. He understands the effort that it's going to take at that level, and I think he's going to be a kid that comes in and plays really hard. And the kid Josh is probably compared with the most is Duke's Jason Tatum, and when you talk to scouts about those two, they think that maybe Tatum will have the higher ceiling and might be the better NBA player eventually. But right now, Jackson is better just because understanding this is how the effort that I need to play at, and he's really going to come in and people think he's going to have an impact right away. So I think Self's maybe not far off in his assessment.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. I don't know if it's hyperbole. It might be a little hyperbole, but I think you get this guy, you get him signed in, you have to say the right things in the release. And so It's just everybody's excited. You see the same thing with the NFL draft, where John Gruden says something nice about every player who comes off the board, and so does Mel Kiper. And so we see this from Bill Self in these quotes. So I'm kind of stealing a game from Effectively Wild, which is one of my favorite baseball podcasts, from Ben Lindbergh and Sam Miller, where they pull out the Baseball Prospectus Annual and they read a guy's bio from that, and then the other guy tries to guess who the player is that the person is talking about. So I went back here through history since Bill Self started at KU, and I pulled out some of the quotes from Bill Self from guys when they signed with Kansas, when they officially had. So like this Josh Jackson day, when he officially signed with Kansas, Bill Self had a comment. what were his comments at the time about these certain players. So I threw you one yesterday over email, just kind of as an example of what we're going to do here. Here was the Bill Self quote. "We think he will be an immediate and major contributor for us. I really feel he could be a sleeper that everybody will say, 'Where did you get him?' a couple of years from now, in a similar way they did the Morris twins. He's very young basketball-wise. He's a sponge and wants to learn. I really think he's going to get good fast." So who was Bill Self talking about? And actually, you got this one right. Who was Bill Self talking about for all those people at home?
Jamari Traylor.
Jamari Traylor, an immediate and major contributor for us, and it could be a sleeper that everybody will say, "Where did you get him?" a couple years from now. So anyway, it's kind of fascinating to hear what Bill Self said at the time about these guys. So I took a random sampling here. I'm just going to kind of scroll up and down, and folks can play along here at home with their podcast. Can you name the KU player that Bill Self is talking about? Let's see if I can start. I don't know if I'm going to start easy or hard. I'm just going to give you one. Here we go.
I'm excited about this game. I'm scared, though, that I'm just going to get that first one and I'm not going to get it.
Okay, well, here we go. "This is a big day for our basketball program," Self said. "We felt like losing the caliber of players we lost off last year's team, but we really needed to hit a home run from a talent standpoint in the spring signing, and we've done that with this player. He's a point guard that can score. He's a playmaker. He can be a great facilitator and also a great finisher himself. We've been really fortunate to have really good guards here, but certainly he is the most highly recruited guard that we have signed since we have been at Kansas." Who is that player?
Well, at first I was thinking this is somebody following the national title team because of what they had then. But the end part with highest point guard, I'm going to have to go with Josh Selby.
Josh Selby is correct. I thought you might go on the Sharon Collins route because of the highest recruited point guard, but that is Josh Selby. Exactly right. They needed to hit a home run from a talent standpoint and the most highly recruited guard that KU had signed since he's been there. So you are now 2 for 2 on this.
Woo!
Let's see if we can keep going. Let me pull out another random one. Here we go. "He comes as no major surprise because he's been committed for quite some time. I think he's one of the best guards we have recruited since we've been here. He can score. He's sneaky athletic and can play the 1 and the 2 and will be a great combo guard in our system."
Ooh.
A little bit tougher.
I'm going to go with Mario Chalmers.
Mario Chalmers, good guess. That's not correct. You want to go first? Second guess? He comes as no major surprise because he's been committed for quite some time. I think he is one of the best guards we've recruited since we've been here. He can score. He's sneaky athletic and can play the 1 and the 2 and will be a great combo guard in our system. This one's a little bit vague.
Yeah. I want to say
committed for quite some time is the biggest clue in that one.
Yeah, that is a big clue, but
he was committed since his sophomore year, if that helps you.
Ooh, committed since his sophomore year. I wanted to say Sharon, but I don't think he was committed that long.
Nope.
Tyrell Reed?
You're very close. Connor Frankamp is the correct answer.
Frankamp. Wow. Read that quote again. Let's hear that one more time.
"He comes as no major surprise because he's been committed for quite some time. I think he's one of the best guards we've recruited since we've been here. He can score, he's sneaky athletic, and can play the 1 and the 2 and will be a great combo guard in our system."
Now that just tells you right there. One of the best guards they recruited. To be fair to Connor Frankamp, I think as a high school player he did kill it. And he looked to be pretty good when you watched him against guys that at the high school level. But man, yeah, that now looking back, that definitely seems to be a little hyperbole.
Let's go with another one here. This is all right. Here we go. From Bill Self. "He is a young man we recruited longer than anyone else. Ever since we came to Kansas, he has been a target, and we feel very fortunate to get him to come to our program. We feel like we know him and his family very well. We have watched him play so much and have watched his development over time. He is a tall guard who is an excellent defender, and the transition should be easier for him having played in the high school program that he did."
Ooh, okay, so he comes from a respected program. It's got to be a guy kind of early on. At first I was thinking Cole Aldridge, but then you said guard. Tall guard. And I want to say Brandon Rush, but you said high school program that's respected. I don't know that Rush was really playing for a it's not Rush, right?
Not Rush.
He wasn't playing for a high school pro. I wonder. Oh, okay. I think I got this. Micah Downs.
Micah Downs is not correct.
Oh.
A little bit later. That was a good guess, though.
A little bit later. Okay.
Recruited him longer than anyone else. He has been a target since they came to Kansas. Yeah. So
maybe he's a local kid.
Think recruit a long time.
Travis Relaford.
Travis Relaford, correct. Very good. So a second guess, not too bad on that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more of these. I think hopefully people are playing along here at home with this.
And notice he's given some love to the high school, which is a local high school.
Exactly, playing the game. A lot of these releases, you kind of have to read between the lines because a lot of times, they credit the parent, they credit the high school coach. All these things you have to do in recruiting to build those ties to keep the pipeline coming for future years. Yep. We are very appreciative of his loyalty to Kansas and are excited about him being a Jayhawk. He has been committed to Kansas for more than a year and has visited campus many times. Our fans should be very excited about a player of his ability and his love for this university. He will be an excellent addition to our front court. He has terrific size and a very high ceiling for his future. He is a true five-man that is very skilled. We believe he can anchor our play on both ends of the court.
All right, I'm going to go Cole Aldrich.
Cole Aldrich, you got that one right off the bat.
Yep.
Here, I need an applause sort of sound drop. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can do that in future weeks.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit. Let's go with this one. Yeah, that was too easy. I got to challenge you now. He is a point guard who can really shoot the basketball. His absence from competition from basketball for 4 years will be a transition for him, but he has always kept the ball in his hands over that period of time. His mentality, strength, knowledge, and skill set should immediately impact our program and make us a better team. Our biggest concern presently is for him to get 100% healthy.
Easy.
Oh, that was an easier one? Okay.
Henry.
C.J. Henry is correct, yes.
Yeah, the absence from basketball, that gave it. At first I was like, who would take then it clicked. Absence from basketball.
So,
right.
I'm have to go back and count what you are here, so pretty good so far. Okay, let's go with this one. We are obviously excited to receive this word from someone of his ability this late in the recruiting process. He is a very versatile perimeter player that has excellent ball handling skills. His size and athletic ability will allow him to defend on the perimeter. We feel the addition of him will help make this young but talented team even more versatile this season. He comes from a great basketball family that has experienced success at the highest level. He and his family's commitment to going to school and representing the University of Kansas should speak volumes to our fan base. I certainly appreciate the confidence he and his family have shown throughout this brief but very busy recruiting process. Name that Jayhawk.
Oh man, that was a mouthful. I want to let me put out a guess there, then I might have you read it one more time. Brady Morningstar?
Brady Morningstar is incorrect. Let me read it one more time. We are obviously excited to receive this word from someone of his ability this late in the recruiting process. He is a very versatile perimeter player that has excellent ball handling skills. His size and athletic ability will allow him to defend on the perimeter. We feel the addition of him will help make this young but talented team even more versatile this season. He comes from a great basketball family that has experienced success at the highest level. He and his family's commitment to going to school and representing the University of Kansas should speak volumes to our fan base.
Xavier Henry.
Not correct.
Not correct. Okay,
I certainly appreciate the confidence he and his family has shown throughout this brief but very busy recruiting process.
The family thing is throwing me off, and then the late in the game, that's why I was thinking Xavier. But I'm gonna go. Here's my last guess. If I don't get this one, you gotta tell me. Yeah.
Some people are screaming at their podcast right now, so go ahead.
Merv Lindsay.
Merv Lindsay. No.
Hold on.
Here,
I got it. Brandon Rush.
Brandon Rush is correct. I was going to say the what probably threw you off is the excellent ball handling skills. Could have totally thrown, because you're thinking, okay, local kid, late signee, the family chose the school. Why would that be a big deal? But it would be a big deal for Brandon Rush. But the excellent ball handling skills might have been.
That was a bad one. I should have had that.
Okay, let's do a couple more of these. This is fun. Okay. He is an athletic, quick-twitched, prototypical power forward. His offensive game is one that is expanding. He has played for one of the very best high school programs in the country at St. Pat's. Last year they finished number 2 in the country, and this year they have a chance to be one of the best again. He will give us an element of toughness, and his defensive rebounding will be something we look to early in his career. I gave you a big hint in there in the middle.
Yeah,
hopefully you can get it from that.
I was thinking Thomas Robinson at first, but he went to Brewster. let's see. So did the Morris twins go to St. Pat's? All right. So read it one more time.
He is an athletic, quick-twitch, prototypical power forward. His offensive game is one that is expanding. He has played for one of the very best high school basketball programs in the country at St. Pat's. Last year they finished number 2 in the country, and this year they have a chance to be one of the best again. He will give us an element of toughness, and his defensive rebounding will be something we look forward to early in his career.
And the St. Pat's part's throwing me off because I can't remember what kid went to St. Pat's. I'm going to say it's one of them, but I feel like he talked about the Morris twins collectively, so it can't be a Morris twin. St. Pat's is in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah, golly. Big guy from New Jersey. This is one people are like screaming at their computers or whatever, their cell phones.
Maybe not.
Big guy from St. Pat's.
You're not going to get it.
I'm not going to get it. Is it? Give me a year, not year, but like a window of years.
Same class as Tyshawn Taylor.
Same class as Tyshawn Taylor. Okay. So it is golly. One of the Morris twins then, right? Marcus Morris?
Quintrell Thomas.
Oh, Quintrell Thomas. Gosh. I'm like I pulled up KenPom for a second to try to go to that 2000.
Oh, you're trying to cheat.
I tried to cheat, yeah. And he's not even on here.
Yes, yeah. There's
Quintrell Thomas. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Okay, couple more for you. He is one of the most skilled 6'7" guys in the country. He can shoot it. He can put it down. He's got good vision. He's a guy that should have a smooth transition from high school to college, in large part because he is a big guard. He's not a guy that has been playing inside a lot. Name that Jayhawk.
All right, read it one more time.
He is one of the most skilled 6'7" big guys in the country. He can shoot it. He can put it down. He's got good vision. He's a guy that should have a smooth transition from high school to college, in large part because he is a big guard. He's not a guy that's been playing inside a lot.
So he says big guy and then says it's like he's contradicting himself inside this quote.
He's a big guard, not a big guy. He's a big guard, but he's a guy that's not been playing inside as a big guard. He's been playing guard at the high school level.
Oh, okay. 6'7". Was Henry that tall? Xavier?
Is that your guess?
Hold on. Let's see. 6'7" guard who would have played outside in high school. Yeah, I'll go with Henry.
Brannon Green.
Oh, man. Brandon Green, that makes sense. All right, damn.
All right, let's get two more, and then we will get to our interview with Jeff Borzello and get some recruiting talk out there for folks. It has been our focus and our top recruiting priority to try to sign an inside presence and a rim protector to go along with our returning players. We feel like we've been able to sign a premier big man that has as much upside as any big we've recruited in recent memory. He reminds me so much of Thomas Robinson, late in Thomas's college career. He has a great motor. He runs as well as any big guy that we've had and certainly has a knack for finding the ball. He'll bring a toughness and aggressiveness to our program. We anticipate his transition to college to be very seamless also.
Cliff Alexander.
Good job. Incorrect.
Oh, Check Diallo.
Check Diallo is right. It is funny because you're reading that, you're thinking this could be one of two guys right here.
Yep.
It
was.
It could be one or the other.
Yep.
All right.
So the lesson to KU fans: always be scared if you mention Thomas Robinson, I guess.
All right, one more. Let's go with. Oh man, there's still so many. We'll have to probably pick this up again next week because there's still so many that have not gone on yet. So many gems. Okay. Right now, he is not a true point guard. He is a scoring, fast, active guard. He can play point, but he is more of a combo than a point. We think his potential is very high, and he has a chance to be a terrific player. Athletically, he will have very few equals. Name that Jayhawk. Frank Mason is incorrect, even though, wow, I'm reading this. That sounds almost exactly like Frank Mason.
That sounds like Frank Mason, doesn't it? Read that one more time.
Right now, he's not a true point guard. He's a scoring, fast, active guard. He can play point, but is more of a combo than a point. We think his potential is very high, and he has a chance to be a terrific player. Athletically, he will have very few equals. I think the last line is...
Sharon Collins?
Incorrect. The last line, the athletically, he will have very few
okay.
equals. I think what is your best hint based on what he did at the McDonald's game and what he could do athletically?
Oh, shoot. What he did at the McDonald's game.
And he did end up being a true point guard, or a point guard for KU, I should say.
What he did at the McDonald's game. Shoot. So it's a real athletic dude.
McDonald's game / YouTube, I guess I should go with that.
Gosh, like my brain's freezing up now. Let's see. Who won a dunk contest? It was a KU kid. You say he's a combo guard?
Combo guard, played point for KU, started at point guard. There were no combos to go with him.
It wasn't not Mario Chalmers.
Nope.
No. I said Sharon. I feel like didn't Sharon do pretty well in a dunk contest?
He did, but this is not Sharon.
It's not Sharon.
And in fact is Elijah Johnson.
Elijah Johnson.
Very athletic.
There you go. Elijah Johnson was McDonald's All-American?
He was, correct. I might have to search the old Googles now, but maybe.
Yeah, I think he was for sure. Yeah, I don't remember him killing it in the dunk contest.
I just remember the between the legs dunk that was like a YouTube sensation. But
that makes sense. Elijah Johnson.
But maybe he wasn't on McDonald's All-American. I guess.
Although that really should have been Frank Mason's.
Yeah, it really should have been. I mean, you basically to a T described him in that one. So anyway, fascinating. We'll pick this up another week when it's a little bit slower. But just to let you know, that is the Bill Self quote machine. And again, there are some things that have to be said after these signings to try to get you in good graces with the family, with the player. And you can't come out and basically say, hey, this guy is terrible either. But it is interesting to read those comments, and we make a big deal of those comments, but then also look back in history and say, yeah, some of those were pretty true, and some of those might have been a little bit on the nice side, if you will.
All right, Jesse, if we play that game with Bill Self, do you think he scores better than I scored?
Since he, quote, said it, I would hope so, but maybe not. I would say he'd probably get about 75% of them right. And,
I think he'd probably miss a couple. I mean, it's hard to remember all the now that they've had, this coaching staff's been here for a while. It's hard to remember all those guys. So he's definitely would have missed some.
Yeah, and hit me up on Twitter, too, at Jesse Newell. Let me know how you did on the quiz and how many you got instead of CJ. We can see if you did better than CJ on this quiz. And like I said, might pick it up in a future week. Without further ado, let's get to our interview with Jeff Borzello of ESPN.com, lead recruiting analyst, or one of the lead recruiting analysts for them. Talk to him about KU's signees, Josh Jackson, transfers, everything above. Talking to Jeff Borzello and about KU and the future recruiting classes they could have. Hold on, after a quick break, we'll join Jeff.
All right, Jesse and I are now joined by ESPN.com recruiting analyst Jeff Borzello. Jeff, would that be an accurate title, recruiting analyst?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll allow that one.
Jeff has probably the best hair game in college basketball reporting, and not many people know this, but he can play a little ball. I would call him a poor man's Sharon Collins. Jeff, are you comfortable with that characterization?
I was once compared to a right-handed Matt Carlino, and Sharon Collins had a better college career, but I don't know if I love the body type comparison, so I might have to stick with Carlino.
We'll go with peak Sharon Collins with that one. Way back in the day.
College Sharon
Collins. College Sharon Collins. I'll live with.
All right. Well, we've got Jeff on because obviously the transferring market is of interest to KU fans right now because Duke point guard or former Duke point guard Derek Thornton is a guy KU's recruiting. Jeff, first of all, what do you think of the player that maybe Derek Thornton will be here in a year or so when he's eligible?
Well, coming out of high school, I thought he was, an elite level point guard for that class. I thought he was a 5-star player. Obviously that didn't really translate at Duke, but I think the thing we have to remember is that, he was expected to be the 2016 point guard, and There was even some talk that if he reclassified, which he did, he was going to take a redshirt year. Duke ended up needing him because they didn't really have any other point guards. And so he didn't really get that either final year of high school or, first sort of development year of college. He was sort of thrown right into the fire. And, his minutes were uneven. His role kept changing. So I don't know if he ever really got comfortable at the college level. So I think we're going to see a different Derek Thornton when he's eligible, in around 18 months or so. I still think he's super talented. I think he's good at both ends of the floor. He's quick. His jump shot's not great, but, when you have a year off, that can improve. I think he's a good defender. So I think whichever team gets them, I think they're going to get a guy that is going to be, of the same caliber as a 5-star top 25 point guard they might get in the 2017 class.
And, the schools that are involved, kind of take us through what their sales pitch is to Thornton.
Well, for a lot of them, Kansas, USC, Washington, Miami, a lot of it is just, you can come in, we need a point guard in the 2017-2018 season, and you can come in, you're going to be playing 30, 35 minutes a game. Your role is not going to fluctuate like it did at Duke. And, so I think that's sort of the biggest thing. And I think that's what, the biggest thing for Thornton is that he can come in and play a huge role and sort of play in an offense that suits him well. And so, for USC, it's a little bit different. For Washington, it's a little bit different because you can say, hey, come back to the West Coast. You're closer to home. Your family can see you more. So for those two schools, it's they have a little bit of a different angle, but all four are really pitching, immediate playing time. The 2017 class of point guards isn't great at the top. So, a lot of these guys just want to get that high level point guard done right away.
And that brings me something, it's my belief that landing a guy like Thornton for a KU would pay off more than maybe grabbing a 5-star freshman point guard in that 2017 class, just because of the fact that you have him who was once a 5-star guy, he's going to be a third-year college player. You've still got 3 years of eligibility. He's going to be way more ready to make an impact that 2017, 2018 season than a freshman. Are you with me on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially because, like I said, the 2017 class of point guards isn't great. Trevon Duval and Trae Young are very good. And there have been guys that have stepped up this spring, but at the same time, like you said, Derek Thornton's going to be a third-year college player, and we've already sort of seen what the floor is for him. And it's not bad. Obviously he didn't come in and average 15 and 6, but, he was a really solid player at times for Duke. And, if that's sort of the worst-case scenario for your starting point guard, I don't think you're in bad shape. And if you take a freshman, maybe it's not, maybe it's ranked 35th or the 6th best point guard because, like I said, it's not great. They might not have sort of that freshman. They could struggle like a lot of freshmen do. And Thornton struggled, and he still put forth a pretty good year. And so I just think that with the year off, with the year of development, add some weight, add a jump shot, I just think that the floor is so much higher for him than any freshman you're going to get.
Hey, Jeff, we know that he is it's one of 4 schools left for him, and he's kind of taking visits around now. You have any sense of where he might be leaning or where you might have a guess as where he might end up?
Well, I think the school in best position would be USC. I thought that, as soon as he transferred, I assumed that, USC would get involved, and they did, and they got the first visit. As soon as he came back home from Duke for the summer, they got him on campus. So, I think that they're in a really good spot. Obviously Kansas and Washington and Miami are going to have their chance to make their pitches, but I think USC is in a good spot. It's a chance to come closer to home, close to LA. Obviously he's going to have a chance to play 35, 40 minutes right off the bat. And I think he just likes sort of the USC system and style, and I just think sort of everything about USC really suits him well.
Just as a reminder to Kansas fans, that's at Jeff Borzello that you can aim your hate at.
I should have realized the audience and lied and said Kansas was my pick, but.
Hey, you're in the getting it right business, Jeff. So I'm happy.
Except when I'm wrong, I guess my mentions will be filled up if I'm wrong.
But Jeff has probably as good a feel for this as anybody out there because he knows the transfer market. He he is telling you when guys are transferring, when it's happening. He's the man for the transfer. So I respect his opinion on this probably more so than anybody else.
It's my hair and transfers are the two things I have going for me. That's good.
But listen, if you're going to have two things going for you, I mean, that's probably two pretty good ones, In
that Sperry shoot game, and how many pairs of Sperry's do you have to go out on the recruiting circuit this summer? I mean, how many new pairs are you buying?
I'm actually trying to vary it up a little bit. Like I'm trying to, get a few Nike, some Vans, some Sperry's, just so I don't look, so it's not so bland. So just switch it up. When I went to Chicago for the McDonald's game and then the Final Four, I was gone for like 6 days. I brought 6 pairs of shoes. So I'm trying to, add some spice into the rotation.
That's ridiculous. All right. Continuing with this transfer theme, the frequency of players that are transferring out regularly gets referred to as an epidemic. Do you think that's fair? Is it really an epidemic?
I mean, I don't really see it as an epidemic. To me, an epidemic is like super serious and needs like dire, changes. And obviously it's more public now. And I think people, when I tweet out like in the day 5 guys are transferring, and say, oh my God, who's not transferring? But right now we're actually about 200. We're at about 200 fewer names than last year in terms of transfers. I think last year we're up to like 700 something, and now we're at like 525. And obviously it's a lot, but I just think that people are so much more aware of it now that everyone sort of looks at it as a quote unquote epidemic or something that needs drastic changes. But for a regular college student, there's a ton of transfers as well. So I just think this is sort of just the nature of a sort of a first year college student. Obviously there are some differences. Third year college kids don't always transfer, and the graduate transfer rules added some. I guess a little more controversy to the transfer market, but I just think it's sort of just the nature of a college student is that if he doesn't like it after a year, whether you're a regular biology major or a college basketball player, there's chances are you're going to transfer. And I just think the only reason that people are so much take it so much more seriously now is that we're tweeting out and writing stories about every transfer, and so it just seems like there's so many more kids this year than last year, but in reality, that's not true.
I think the thing that's really made this thing more public is what's happened lately with transfers is that schools like Kansas, you don't normally see in other years the Delaware transfer or the St. John's or whoever, like KU being on their radar when they're deciding to be a graduate transfer but the fact of the matter is a lot of these one and dones, these guys going to school early, Kansas is now getting into the business of trying to pick up these kids from the lower level. So it seems to me like it's become more of a national scale thing because it used to be these guys are transferred from school to school. Now the Kansases, Kentucky's, Dukes, USC's of the world are trying to get in on these guys because they have scholarships to fill.
Right. I mean, like you said, like 5 years ago, if the school was made up of, had 4 or 5 transfers, they were sort of looked at as like a renegade school taking these second chance kids and stuff like that. And now, like you said, Duke's doing it, Kansas is doing it, Kentucky's getting transfers. Pretty much everyone is looking for a transfer, whether it's a grad transfer or a guy to sit out. Every school is doing it. And now there are schools with 2 or 3, 4 transfers, and no one really bats an eye. Obviously, Iowa State under, Fred Hoiberg, had 6 or 7, and it wasn't really an issue. Bruce Pearl's gotten 8 transfers since he took over in 2014. So to me, it's not limited to a certain number of schools anymore. Pretty much every school and every coach has an interest in getting a transfer.
What I think is really funny is Greg McDermott, who Hoiberg takes over for. I don't think he really was bringing in any transfers at that time, and now Creighton is bringing in like all these dudes, and he's almost following the Hoiberg model after the dude who essentially took his job.
Yeah, I mean you see Iowa State go to multiple tournaments and win 28 games every year, and teams say, hey, we could do the same thing. And obviously, for some teams it hasn't worked out, but there's like we were talking about with Thornton, just you sort of know the floor for a lot of these guys, and you've seen what they can do at the college level, and sometimes a coach says, okay, well he averaged 14 a game in the CAA, so we're going to get a guy that can at least contribute, as opposed to, hey, we might have to get this, we're not so totally sold on this 4-star prospect, and maybe he could fill a role and play 8 to 10 minutes his freshman year. But, a lot of these guys say, hey, we've seen what this transfer can do. we'd rather take a chance on him.
And there's less of a stigma with these guys now too, don't you think?
Right.
I mean, don't you think at one point there was
100%, yeah.
people were hesitant to take those guys?
Yeah, and especially, I mean, look at the grad transfers. I mean, these are guys that have, aside from the Ivy League kids, they're guys that have transferred twice now. And, 5-10 years ago, if a team had taken a kid that transferred twice, it would be like the end of the world. It was like, what are you doing? Why are you taking this kid? What's sort of the baggage about him? What are you doing? And now there's, you look at the grad transfer, board, and there's 30, 40, 50, 60 kids that have been multiple transfer guys, and no one really cares about that anymore. So it's the whole stigma about, oh, you're taking a second chance, a third chance kid. That's all gone.
Is there any rule that you would change as regard to the transfer? I mean, the grad transfer rule. Is there anything that you would change if I put you in charge of the NCAA tomorrow? Is there anything that you would try to do to help slow this down, or do you?
Well, I mean, some coaches will complain about the grad transfer rule, but it makes my job more exciting, so I want to keep it. But also, I mean, to me, if a kid graduates his undergrad, there shouldn't be a rule that holds him back from going to a different school if he has another year of eligibility left. You wouldn't do that to a regular college student. If he got his degree, you wouldn't say, hey, you can't leave. You have to stay for your extra year, even though you already have a degree. And so I don't think it should change. And obviously, mid-major and low-major coaches don't like it because their kids leave. Their kids are more likely to leave than a high-major school. But, I think the rule is fine the way it is. They got rid of I don't know if they completely got rid of the whole waiver for, a sick parent. I think that was abused a little bit more a couple of years ago. And, I think they at least made some adjustments to it because we don't really see it as prevalent now. As it was a few years ago. But that was sort of the only thing I would have changed. I think the grad transfer rule is, it might change, but I think it's sort of generally fine the way it is. And there's really no way to limit, the other 500 transfers. So, I think everything's pretty much fine the way it is.
Again, we're talking with Jeff Borzello of ESPN recruiting analyst. Jeff, I can't let you go without getting a little bit more info about these KU recruiting guys, and obviously the person people want to talk about right now is Josh Jackson. And so I wanted your impressions of him just from watching him and being around him. What's your impression of Josh Jackson? What kind of player is KU getting next year?
I think he's probably the most college-ready player in the class. I think he's going to be the guy that makes the biggest impact, and I would probably peg him as sort of the early favorite for freshman of the year next year nationally, just because he's somebody that's going to come in and he's going to contribute at both ends of the floor. He's a lockdown defender. He's long. He could score in transition. And to me, the thing that's most impressive about him is that, his competitiveness and his leadership is sort of on a different level than pretty much everyone else in the class. And you can sort of see that in the McDonald's All-American practices and things like that. Even though there were just, sort of scrimmages and things like that, he was getting on teammates, for not getting back on defense and things like that. And he was getting frustrated when, they weren't scoring or they weren't getting stops. He was the guy that was getting annoyed by it. And you don't really see that from a lot of, high school seniors, especially with the caliber of him. You don't really see that competitiveness every game, every night out. And, that translated, into the high school games, the AAU, stuff like that. He just, brought it consistently every game, every night. And you never really saw him take plays off, take halves off, anything like that.
And that's crazy with this year's team, especially with Bill Self, not known for its personality. I mean, getting that kind of guy in the fold probably will be a big thing for KU just because they've kind of been looking for the guy to take over. Devontae Graham did a little bit of it at the end of last year, but really they were a team, Perry Ellis didn't have much, gusto, if you will. Frank Mason didn't have that. So it seems like this could be kind of an interesting transition because Josh Jackson coming as a freshman might immediately step into kind of the personality of the team as well.
Yeah, you don't really see freshmen, become leaders right away, but, that's just sort of in his nature and his personality. And, he might not be, maybe the most vocal guy on the court, but it's going to be hard to take that competitiveness and that leadership, sort of streak out of him.
Real quick, I wanted to get your impression on the other two guys that KU got. Udoka Azubuike hasn't signed yet, but obviously is committed, and then Mitch Lightfoot. Any impression of those two guys?
I think, Udoka, it's going to be interesting to see, what he tried. It's going to be interesting to see if he stays within his sort of limits at the college level. I mean, for the past couple of years, he's tried to, expand his offensive game and develop his face-up game and things like that. And it's been, sort of inconsistent. To me, he's at his best when he's, around the rim and rebounding and dunking and things like that. because he's huge. He's powerful body, really strong. When he tries to do things that maybe he's not as comfortable with, it kind of looks awkward a little bit, and that's where he struggles when he's trying to take 13 footers and they're clanking off the back rim or falling short. It's just, to me, he's got to stay in the paint. Just focus on rebounding, defending, finishing at the rim. To me, that's where he's at his best. And Mitch Lightfoot, to me, he played a lot more inside in college, and he's only about 6'7" he's going to be a guy that's going to come in. He's tough. He's a little more skilled than Udoka, which is going to help. But to me, both these guys are going to provide depth right off the bat. I don't see either of them starting 25 games as a freshman, but I think both of them are going to give them some good minutes, as the year progresses.
And real quick, just looking ahead, because obviously that's recruiting. Always looking ahead, always keeping an eye to the future. 2017 and beyond with Kansas. Any, irons in the fire? What do you see for KU moving forward with the recruiting classes?
Well, the biggest storyline with Kansas is their pursuit of DeAndre Ayton. And Ayton is the number one kid in 2017. He's sort of made some headlines in recent weeks. He came out and said multiple times that Kansas was the only school recruiting him. And, I'm not sure how true that is, because he's also mentioned in the past month that, Arizona and UCLA have shown interest in Kentucky.
It can't be true, right? I mean, it can't be.
Yeah, I don't totally buy it. Just because, he said that Kentucky's been, quote unquote, mediocre with their interest, which, whether they're that interested or not, they're showing some level of interest. And as the number one kid, you're going to have a lot of schools on you. So I don't think that Kansas is really the only school in the mix for him, but there are a lot of questions surrounding him. Whether he'll play in college. He says he definitely will. He won't, play overseas or follow the Thon-Maker model or anything like that. And so, as his recruitment progresses and people realize that he's going to play in college, if he's going to play in college, and whether he has NCAA issues, that's a different story. But I think we're going to see a lot of schools recruit him. But Kansas clearly has made an impact, or an impression at least, early on him, which is huge for the Jayhawks. And Trae Young has been another, prime target. Bill Self was watching him and teammate Michael Porter on the EYBL, the Nike circuit, the past few weeks. And those two have talked about a package deal a lot. We obviously hear about package deals early in the process now, and they don't always pan out. But, Porter and Young have played, on the Nike circuit together a while, and, they've talked about it. And Porter came out a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, every school, I talk to us, say, hey, I want to play college with Trae Young, and so you might have to take us as a package. And obviously Trae Young is a five-star point guard. He's terrific. So I think those three, Ayton, Porter, and Young, are sort of, high on the board. And, if they get Ayton and Young, that's, probably one of the two best point guards in the class and the best player in the class. So that's a heck of a start. But, they're really they've put forth a lot of offers in the past few weeks. And the latest came on Tuesday night. They offered Quad A Green, he's a point guard out of Philadelphia. He's playing for New York-based PSA Cardinals, and he's been maybe the most impressive point guard on the circuit in April. He was in the first session. He was averaging 10 assists a game. He had a 14 assist game. So he's been terrific, and his stock keeps rising. Duke's interested. So there's a lot of schools in the mix for him, but Kansas sort of jumped in the mix, and they've become interested in a lot of point guards. And again, that's why we're seeing them go after Derek Thornton so hard. They really need a point guard in 2 years, and if they miss on Thornton, they're going to have to get one of these point guards in 2017 because the transfer market has really dried up the past couple of weeks. So they're going to go after point guards. They're going to have to be DeAndre Ayton. The Trae Young, Michael Porter package deal could be an option. So they have a lot of offers and interest in kids in 2017.
Jeff Self said this year that he wants to play start 2 point guards going forward, that he's more comfortable with playing that way. Have you seen them make more, point guard more of a priority? You said they're recruiting a lot of guys at that position. Do you think they're recruiting more guys at that position this year than maybe past years?
Well, I think that comes from a couple of things. If he does want to start 2 point guards, then obviously you're going to need, more than just one or two on the roster. But, the other part is, the 2017 we've seen over the past couple of weeks, we've seen sort of an arms race for point guard, just because there's not a lot of great ones. The depth isn't great. And after the top, 5, 6, or 7, it sort of falls off a little bit. And so we're seeing Duke and Kentucky and Kansas offer pretty much every top 5, top 7 point guard, just because there's not too many. And, they want to get at least one out of the way early, or at least, get heavily involved early so they can get one. Just because if they don't get, one of their top 3 or 4 point guard targets, there's not a lot out there. There's not, we're going to see probably next spring around this time teams scrambling for point guards. There's not going to be a lot left. So, we're seeing the big powerhouse schools really have a race for point guards in 2017.
Cool. Last thing I want to ask you, and then we'll get you out of here. Going back to the transfers thing, Brian Snow tweeted out something interesting I thought the other day. He said, if you really want to get rid of the transfer epidemic, again, he put that in quotes because I think he also believes it's not an epidemic, but get rid of the spring signing period. It's when a majority of mistakes are made. You look to KU, and, I think a couple of their guys in recent past, Merv Lindsay, Rio Adams, those were spring guys who were just kind of like, oh, crap, we still have a scholarship. We better go nab somebody. Do you think that happens a lot, and do you think that is part of the quote-unquote problem?
I think so. There's one thing I want to add about the quote-unquote transfer epidemic, and you mentioned Brian Snow made me think of it, because he's talked about this with Spike Albrecht, the past couple of weeks, is people always blame the kids and the need for, instant gratification and stuff like that as the main reasons for transfers. But a lot of people don't really ever put the blame on coaches, because a lot of these kids are just, they're not sort of getting the playing time they were, sort of promised during the recruiting process. And in a lot of these cases, these kids are being pushed out, to make room for another point guard. I'm not saying that Derek Thornton was pushed out by Duke, that, that rumor was going around when he transferred. But, some of these kids are saying, the coach is going in and saying, hey, we're bringing in, 2 guys at your position next year. They're probably going to be playing 20, 25 minutes each. You're only going to be getting 3 or 5 minutes next year. And so, the kid can read between the lines and say, okay, well, I guess I might as well leave. And so, in a lot of these cases, people don't realize the role that coaches play in it. But, back to the spring signing period, it's going to be hard to get rid of it just because the early signing period is kind of 6 months ago, and kids need a spot to sign their letter of intent. But there are the fact with the spring signing period is that coaches get so desperate, and kids that weren't being recruited at the high major level or weren't being recruited at, the Kansas level, those schools sort of look around and say, oh, I need a shooting guard for next year. And if they can't get a transfer, they're looking at the high school market. And obviously aside from the Jared Allens and Marcus Boldens and guys like that, there's not a ton of 2016 kids still around. And so you're seeing kids that maybe decommitted from a mid-major school and suddenly high major schools are getting in the mix. And, in a lot of these cases, in most of these cases, these kids, where they committed first, that's sort of indicative of the level they're at. Obviously some kids improve over their senior year and blow up and things like that. But in most cases, if a kid commits to, Valparaiso, I'm just using that as an example, they're probably a mid-major player. And so if a kid decommits from there, we really shouldn't be seeing, Arkansas and Missouri and Ole Miss, go after these kids. It's sort of a situation where they say, oh, we need a player, let's get him. Hopefully he can come in and be a depth option or a worst case option for us. And, obviously after a year, both sides sort of see the player sees, okay, I'm not going to get any minutes here. And the school sees, well, he wasn't good enough for us. And obviously the kid's going to leave. And so we see that year after year. And I could probably look up, the past, 40 kids that have signed with a high major school in the spring signing period. And I'm guessing a lot of them have already left or are averaging 1 point a game at their high major school, just because that's, schools get desperate and say, oh my God, I need a shooting guard, who's still left? And they go after whoever they can. I'm getting calls and texts from coaches saying, hey, are there any big men left in 2016? And I'm like, well, there's this kid, he decommitted from so-and-so. And like, oh, I need his contact info. And it's like, well, the kid can't play for you, but, sure, go ahead. And so this happens, across the country at every position. And so that's sort of the biggest part or the biggest issue with the spring signing period is that it ends up with schools getting desperate and taking kids that aren't at their level.
If you're advising these kids, you want to tell them, hey, stick with the guys who paid attention to you first, who
right.
made the offers early and not.
Well, yeah, and that's the other part is that a kid sees a Kansas or a Texas come in the mix late, and they're like, oh, I could play at Kansas, I could play at Texas. That's going to look awesome, on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. And so they sort of take just the highest offer they can get. And, so obviously it's not just blame the coaches. It's the players are trying to just, get to the highest level, and their coaches, their AAU or high school coaches are saying, hey, if I could have a kid that goes plays for Kansas, that's going to be great for my program. And so it's just, there's sort of, every side to it. It lends itself to mistakes late in the signing period.
Cool. Well, Jeff, we really appreciate the time, man. That was awesome insight, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jeff, real quick, where can people read your stuff, and where can they find you online?
My Twitter is Jeff Borzello, JeffBorzello, and then everything I write on ESPN.com, whether it's breaking news or a column, and everything I tweet out from that account. So you can find me there.
Sounds good. Hey, thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks.
Thanks again to Jeff Borzello of ESPN.com for joining us in our interview. As a postscript, I did want to mention, CJ was right earlier. Elijah Johnson, in fact, was not a McDonald's All-American. He was the top-rated point guard in his class, but he was not on the McDonald's All-American team. Good memory by him. My fault for me. Again, you're checking out the SportsBeat KC podcast. For CJ Moore, you can find him at CJ Moore BR on Twitter and Jesse Newell at Jesse Newell on Twitter. We're going to sign off for this episode. Be sure to check out all our KU coverage at kansascity.com.